Okay, here I'm going to use algebra, but in a very light way. So if you haven't watched the other videos in the past, I would go back to just the first solving simple linear equations so that you can get the idea. I think it's worked. I already tested it out on my own daughter, who's not a math lover, and it seems to work. She can do those problems now. So how do I find the percent of a given quantity? So here, I went straight to the word problem, some of the word problems, so that you can see it in use, because otherwise I don't know, you have to have it in context. So 45 adults were on a bus. 60% of them are women. How many women are there on the bus? The first step is to convert, if I don't have a calculator, convert 60% to a fraction. I'm going to show you how to do this with a calculator because it's so much easier. But I would convert 60% to a fraction. That's 60 over 100. So now I'm using those math facts that I had at the beginning quickly. And then I multiply that fraction to the total amount. The total amount was 45. So then I multiply it. First of all, there's a factor of 10 in both here and here. So the zeros cancel. I think of the zeros just going out. So that's really 6 times 45 over 10. And I can reduce that further. 10 goes into, 10 is really 2 times 5. And 45 is really 9 times 5. That's my horrible looking 9 there. And the 5s cancel. So I'm left with 6 times 9 over 2. So now I've combined everything. And now I see that the 2 goes into itself once. And the 2 goes into here, into 6, 3 times. So I have 27 women. So that's the way I would do it. Again, you see me doing my arithmetic very carefully, and yet you've seen me still make mistakes despite that. That should tell you something. I'm a professional mathematician who lifts my mathematics every day at the gym, and I still make mistakes. That means that we all will make a mistake. And the way to immunize ourselves from making a mistake on any kind of testing situation is to be careful. And any home situation is to hunt down your mistakes. That's why I'm a big advocate for things like Wolfram Alpha, which tell you if you've made a mistake, because that's how you learn. You learn from making mistakes. And I'll give a perfect example of this. You know, go and try to go to your basketball team and shoot a few granny throws. And coach will turn around to you and tell you, hey, we don't shoot like this, we shoot like this. And then you'll learn how to put your arm up and you know, lift up your hand, put the ball into it, and then maybe your arm is crooked and you'll miss your shots, or you'll have trouble getting your shot up, and then coach will come to you and say, hey, look here, your arm is crooked, you need to lift your arm higher. And every time you are corrected, you're learning from that mistake. And you need to allow yourself to make mistakes and be kind to yourself, because that's how we learn. We learn from those mistakes. Math is not about being perfect. Math is about learning from mistakes. All right, so let's look at how I would do this on a calculator. I have 6. You could do it with a fraction. You could take 60 divided by 100 times 45. Do that. And you see that the exact result is 27. But I could also just go 60% is 0.60 times 45. Recall at the beginning that I showed you that 60% in decimal form is 0.60. And if I just multiply those two, and that's how usually we think of this. We think of the percentage, move the decimal point over 2 places, and then do the multiplication. And so I see the result is 27. So Wolfram Alpha has got it right again. All right, here's another problem, and this is a little bit more tricky. Now, they're probably going to show you a rule. So if you have a word problem like this, you're supposed to do it like this. But we can also use algebra. We have a mystery number. The mystery number is, I'm going to call it x. Let x be the mystery number. I'm told that I'm going to pretend like I have this number and use x in its place. 22% of a number. How do I find 22% of a number? Well, I just told you that. 22 over 100 times the mystery number is supposed to be 44. So it's like the previous problem where I had a percent, but I had this number and I had to find this number. This time I'm given the result and I'm told to find the mystery number here. And so this is an algebra problem. If you watch the video, you know the previous video right before the percent, all the percent stuff, you know that I have to go backwards from please excuse my dear Aunt Sally order of operations. There's nothing added or subtracted here, so if I go this direction, I'm already at multiplication and division. So I have to get rid of this 22 over 100, this multiplying my mystery number. And the way I get rid of it is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 22 over 100. So there, I have a video, the second video in this playlist is about fractional coefficients. So in that video, you can review it if you want to, or you can just, I think you can see it. You just flip this thing upside down, 22 over 100, flip it upside down, and then multiply both sides of the equation by that flipped upside down equation. So the equation doesn't change. If I reduce, what I find is on this side, everything cancels, and I'm left with 1, which that's how I set it up. Over here, if I reduce, I get 100 times 2, which is 200. So my mystery number is 200. Now, let me show you something cool. I think I've already shown you this on Wolfram Alpha. I can just tell it, solve 0.22, which is the percent, 22%, times x is equal to 44. That was my equation. I can just tell it to do that, and it gives me x is 200. One last one. 125% of a mystery number is 65. Find the number. Is means equals. So I start out with x is the mystery number. 125% in fractional form because I'm not allowed to use a calculator. Boy, it's tough for Dr. Thomas if I'm not allowed to use a calculator. What a world. So 125 over 100 is my fraction. Mystery number is equals 65. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the numerical coefficient of this guy. And then we do some canceling. Over here, I think 5 goes into 65 13 times. 5 goes into 125 25 times. So I get this guy. I can reduce further. 25 goes into itself once. 25 goes into 104 times. And I'm left with 13 times 4. And I get the answer 52. I was remarkably surprised that I could actually do all this arithmetic without making a mistake. Because, like I said, I have a arithmetic problem. But let's go over to Wolfram Alpha and just toss this puppy in. 125% of x is 65%, and see what it says. I'm going to say 125% is, I just move the decimal place over 2 spaces. So if I have 125%, the decimal place would be 2 places to the left. And then I'm going to multiply that by x, and that was supposed to equal, I think, 65. Start to remember 65, right? $52. So Wolfram Alpha got it right again. Look at that. That's always a joke that my one of my professors at Georgia Tech used to say. Let's look in the back of the book and see if they got it right, assuming that we were always right. Another thing about mathematicians, we're lazy and we're arrogant. All right, so there we go. We've got the same answer, and that's how to do this set of problems. Now, there's a whole bunch more of the word problems that I saw on the next page of this section. So what I did is I'm going through the chapter review and just picking out these problems. You're going to get more problems from what I saw from what my daughter's worksheets look like. And I'm going to do some of those word problems next so that you have that also. But if you have any questions, shoot me an email, Thomas_Diana @hotmail.com, and then and I'll answer your email. And also, if you want to guest present, if you want to come over here, you know how I did with Aishu, where she's sitting with me and she's asking questions. If you want to do that, let me know. You can be featured in one of these videos and you get your questions answered. We can also do this by Skype, so you can give me a call by Skype and we can go through the problem together, so you don't have to come over to my house and sit next to me. That's the worst thing in the world, having to sit next to a mathematician. Our math classes, we always had to sit next to each other, so we were mathematicians sitting next to mathematicians. This is another way where you can get your questions answered as we're going through the slides. Or if you want to see a specific problem looked at where you couldn't understand it, send it over. All right,